weekend, but we're so glad to be with you today. If you guys are able to and would like to join us, if you can stand as we sing songs together. This one's called Nothing Like Your Love. Spirit of heaven, there is nothing like your love. There is nothing like your love. There is nothing like your love. Spirit of heaven, there is nothing like your
everybody. My name is Michelle.
And my name is Whitney, and we are so happy that you're here. If you have a kiddo, you can check them into Kids Venue. They'll have a great time. You'll have a great time. It's a good time. If we need you during service, we will flash your 4-digit code on here, the one that you get when you check in your kiddos. If you have a baby or toddler, they can head to the wiggle room with you. If you want to keep them during service, we live stream the service in there so you don't miss a thing.
Every Thursday we have Bar Church at Mother's Brewing downtown Springfield. It starts at 6:30. If you've not been, it's a great time. Good way to meet new people that go here. Invite anybody you like, your family, your friends, your pets, your babies. I bring my babies all the time. So 6:30 this Thursday. We hope to see you guys there.
Merry Christmas!
Merry Christmas!
In July, we are celebrating Christmas in July by supporting some local organizations with Lights of Love. If you want to learn more about Lights of Love, you can check it out on the website or on our handy dandy app.
I'm the elf.
Yeah, because she's short.
Yes, exactly. Volunteer Appreciation Dinner is coming up on Monday, July 27th at 6 p.m. Without our incredible volunteers, we wouldn't be able to do what we do on Sundays, and we want to say thank you. So you should RSVP at thevenues.org so that we know how much food to make.
Food. Yay, food.
Yay, food.
Next level is today. Right after service in this very auditorium, you can get to know a little bit more about us. We can get to know a little bit more about you. It's a quick little class about the venues, so stick around, check it out.
We hope to see you guys there. If you want to know more about upcoming events, check out thevenues.org. There you can find all that information like RSVPing for the Volunteer Appreciation Dinner. There you can also give online, sign up to volunteer.
Everything is there. Thevenues.org. Check it out.
Also follow us on social media. We are there as well.
We're all over the web. If it is your first time here, come meet me in the lobby. My name is Whitney. I will give you a gift. I may or may not be wearing the Santa hat. We've really committed to these hats during this video. May or may not have it on. I guess you'll have to come meet me to see. Have a great week. We're happy you're here.
Bye, guys.
Bye. Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
Wait, let me talk first. I could sing it. I would hope.
Amazing drama.
Now we're pumped for the song. I don't have my Santa hat on, but I do have a red hat on, and I feel like that counts for something. And you're just a little elf still. All right. Hi. Good morning. My name is Whitney. I'm a member of the venue staff. Okay, raise your hand if you've ever had a bad boss. Okay, some of you are like, are they here? Hopefully not. So that's most of us. I've had a variety of bosses over the years. Some have been great. Barbie, where are you? You're great. I love you. Thank you. Some have been not so great. One particular boss told me that my promotion to a team lead would not be coming with a raise because, quote, your spouse makes enough money for your family. Ooh. I won't say who it was. I know this experience is not unique. Too many of my friends, especially my female friends, have had similar experiences at work with less than acceptable treatment. In the United States, women earn about 81 to 84 cents to every dollar that is paid to a man, meaning women are paid 16 to 19% less on average. And if that doesn't tell you anything, the disparity over a lifetime of work is about $500,000 in a 40-year career. These stats are even worse as we factor in race. Which brings me to today's song. Written as the theme to the 1980s comedy film hit 9 to 5, which stars Dolly Parton alongside Jane Fonda and Lily Tomlin, the song is rooted in a real-life women's labor movement of the 1970s. That's my baby crying. He's like, I hear her, but I don't see her. Okay. This song is catchy, fun, and upbeat, but it packs a punch. No matter your job, no matter your gender, race, sexual orientation, or even when you feel the lowest on the metaphorical ladder, you matter here. In the words of Dolly Parton, You're in the same boat as a lot of your friends. We see you and we love you. And as our friends pass around the money buckets, which is my very official term for the offering basket, please give as you're able, and we're glad you're here. You're going to crush it, Michelle. I'm so excited.
You've got dreams he'll never take away. You're in the same boat with a lot of your friends, trying to get the ship come in. The tide's gonna turn and it's all gonna run your way. Working 9 to 5, what a way to make a living, barely getting by. It's all taking and no giving. They just use your mind and they never give you credit. To drive you crazy if you let it. 9 to 5, where they got you where they want you. There's a better life, and you think about it, don't you? It's a rich man's game, no matter what they call it. And you spend your life putting money in his wallet. 9 to 5, oh what a way to make a living, really getting by. It's all taking and no giving. They just use your mind and they never give you credit. It's enough to drive you crazy if you let it. 9 to 5, yeah, they got you where they want you. There's a better life, and you dream about it, don't you? It's a rich man's game, no matter what they call it. And you spend your life putting money in his wallet. Ooh, ooh. Thank you.
So when I was in college, there was a semester where I did not have a roommate. And there were some really exciting things about living in an apartment without a roommate. Like, I could go to bed whenever I wanted. I didn't have to worry about them being too loud when I was studying, or them trying to study while I was being too loud. But there's one thing about living in an apartment by yourself in college that creates a unique hardship, and that's this: you broke. Absolutely. And so for that semester, I tried to cut out every expense that I could imagine. Mostly what I did is I would go to the store and I would buy like a box of pasta, and my topping for that pasta would be whatever condiment I happened to be able to retrieve from a local restaurant. So like I'd go to Pizza Hut and get like the shredded Parmesan and like, pasta and Parmesan or ranch dressing or A1. I actually had a friend one time who was making macaroni and cheese and realized he was out of milk. And so he thought, well, milk is white, mayonnaise is white. Bleh. But you know what? I also didn't at the time have the internet or cable TV. All I had was just an actual TV set and one of the old school original Nintendo Entertainment Centers that I was given as a 6th grader. And I didn't have many games. I just actually had Super Mario Brothers. And here was the thing. What I would do is that between classes, I would come home to my apartment and I'd make myself some pasta and I'd see if I could beat Mario as fast as I could. And sometimes I got to where I thought I was doing really well. Like I could beat it in like half an hour, 45 minutes, an hour, something like that. And I was like, I'm crushing this. I'm really, really good at Super Mario Brothers. Fast forward a couple of years ago, and I saw this thread on Reddit that said this. We are now 0.3 seconds off in absolute perfection, says Super Mario Brothers speedrunner as he sets the new world record of 4 minutes and 54 seconds to beat the entire game with no warps. And suddenly I started going down this rabbit hole of people who dedicate hours a week playing retro video games, trying to shave tenths of a second off of beating the entire game. It's kind of wild to me. Because here I was, thinking I was doing so well. And yet me at my best was like 15 times worse than they are at their worst. It really does do that whole like comparison is the enemy of joy thing, right? I wonder how many of us have been here before. We think we're doing really, really well at something, just to find out that someone else is so much better than us at it. And then suddenly, it changes our mind, not only about what we've done, but maybe sometimes worse, about who we are. And look, while comparing ourselves over something silly, like how fast you can beat a 40-year-old video game, might not seem like that big of a deal, we are now existing in a world that is constant comparison that can actually cause some major problems. Recent research said this: comparison distorts our reality. Research shows that comparing up or envying others causes more pain than comparing down provides satisfaction. And here was the line that really stuck with me when Daniel Crosby wrote this. He said, every additional hour spent scrolling increases the risk of depression by 13%. And here's the thing. We are constantly on this lookout, aren't we? It's this thing where I imagine if we're honest, most of us have been in that space pretty regularly. We see someone else's great summer vacation pictures, or their massive biceps, which obviously aren't mine, or their great tan, or their new home, or fill in the blank. And all that we can do, even if we've just had the highlight reel of our own life, is think, man, that's better than what I've got. And then suddenly someone else's joy steals our joy as well. And it's not like this is just a part of life either. Like the song just sang, this is literally a part of the system. Sonia Renee Taylor notes it this way, and she's a brilliant writer. If you ever get a chance to read her stuff, it's awesome. She said this: we are so terrified of being ourselves, and this is fueled by a system that makes large quantities of money off our shame and bias. These experiences are not divergent, but complementary. In other words, Billions and billions and billions of dollars are spent every year getting us to compare ourselves to each other. We see the advertisement where someone else looks better or does more stuff or has more stuff. And it's not an accident that we feel bad about it. It's not a bug to the system, it's a feature to the system. Thank you. Is this better? I'm gonna mute this. But by the way, I will say, as a quick side note, as an offside, I used to do some work up in the tech booth, and I will tell you, that is way harder than what I'm doing up here. So thank you all so much for the work that you do up there. It is incredible. Let's give them a hand really quickly. Hello, check, check, check. Either one? Hello, hello, there we go. Look at that. There we go. Thank you so much. Thanks, Ron. Appreciate that. Here's the thing. Like I said, for them, for the system, it is a feature to the system that keeps us constantly comparing so that we buy more and more stuff. And here's the thing. One of the areas where that specifically happens, where at least I think a lot of us do this, is with our jobs, right? We say, well, like so-and-so has an easier job than I do, or so-and-so makes more money doing the same thing that I do, or so-and-so has way less stress than I do, or better benefits. And I will say, before we go too far on this, I am very thankful that we have started to get to more disclosure and transparency about this, because for so long, just like Whitney was mentioning, there have been times that a lack of transparency on pay has been used to keep the pay rate down for women and people of color and other disprivileged communities. But I do think it is important that we understand that it can also lead to a space of this comparison trap, where we constantly are thinking someone else has it better than I do. And so today, as we're finishing up our series called Streaming, where over the last several weeks we've been looking at television shows that are streaming and kind of talking about how they give us a common language about the things that we are facing in society and how maybe we can understand that. Today, we're going to look at one last show that really deals with this comparison trap piece. And it's a show called Severance. Yeah, it's a great show. One person likes it. All right. Let me just say this before we get too deep into this. This show is interesting. It's pretty random. I watched it when it first came out, and I just absolutely loved it. And so when season 2 got ready to come out, I asked my wife, Morgan, hey, would you like to watch season 1 with me, and then we can watch season 2 together? And she agreed to watch the first couple of episodes with me, and she hated it. She was like, this show is silly. I don't understand the premise of it. What's going on? It's kind of a combination between the movie Office Space and The Matrix. I don't understand. What are we doing? And it was one of those things, and I don't know if you've ever been in this spot before, where you share something with someone you love, like a Spotify playlist or song you really like, and they don't like it, and you're like, is it actually good? You kind of gaslight yourself. I kind of felt that way. Fortunately, Morgan did watch the 3rd episode and decided that she actually really liked it as well. So much to the point that last summer, we went on vacation up in Ithaca, New York, and drove 3 hours out of our way to stop by a waterfall that shows up in season 2, just so that we could take a picture in front of it. But if you haven't seen the show, the basic premise is this. There's this character named Mark S., who's played by Adam Scott from Parks and Rec and several other places, as well as several other like A-list celebrities, like Christopher Walken's in it, as well as others. And they undergo this procedure that plants a chip in their head that allows them, whenever they go to work, to completely forget about everything that's not at work, and when they go home, to completely forget about work. It's kind of like the perfect example of work-life balance, which I know for some of us, you're like, I'd like that, right? And the crux of the show is that it follows these people as they explore these larger questions of who are we really? Are there parts of us at work that are different than the parts of us at home? And is this good or bad? You see, when they're at work, they call themselves innies. And when they're at home, they called themselves outies. Now, I will say I had a different definition of those words when I was a kid. It had to do with belly buttons. But that's what they call themselves. And so I'd like you to take just a second and watch about a minute-long clip that kind of introduces the show to you. We're going to go and show that now. So I think that this is a question, besides just the Apple TV logo. There we go. I think this is one of those questions that many of us have wrestled with at numerous times over the course of our lives. We wrestle with these questions of our work self versus our home self, or the questions of like, the person that I show up on a dating site versus who I am when I actually show up on a date, or the person that we show up at the venues as, or the person that we show up at coffee as, or whatever the thing is. Who we show up in public often is different sometimes than the person that we show up in private with today. And as we kind of think about that reality, I have kind of a big concept that I want us to think about, that I think that as we think about this question about who gets to define our reality, that I want us to kind of sit with. And it's the thing that when you go home to lunch today or whatever, this is the thought that I want you to be thinking of. Or if you take a picture of one of the slides, this is the slide to take a picture of, and it's this one, it's this. You were already whole before the world tried to define you otherwise, okay? This is kind of the main thing that we're gonna point to today, that everything else is gonna kind of get to, that in this comparison trap that we often find ourselves in, that you were already whole before the world tried to define you otherwise. The reality is that this life, whether it is our work life or our home life, is always going to try to push you and me to more. It's always going to tell us that we need to be more, that we need to do more, that we need to see more, that we need to engage more, that we need to get more sales or work more hours. And when we do that, we'll earn more money to buy more stuff. So when we compare ourselves on social media, we're the one who looks like we have more. But this comparison thing isn't new. In fact, if you had a Bible and you opened it up to the New Testament, one of the very first things that you would read about in the New Testament, in the book of Matthew, so if you had a New Testament, it starts with the book of Matthew. One of the very first things that we see about Jesus in that text is he does this thing called the Sermon on the Mount. And in the Sermon on the Mount, in Matthew 5, he starts off with all of these comparisons that other people have said. For example, he says, like, you've heard it said to love your neighbor and hate your enemy. In other words, you've heard the inside versus the outside. He says, look, you've heard it said that maybe like God just favors one person, but God reigns on both the just and the unjust. Or if you love only those who love you, what reward is that? Or if you only greet your brothers and sisters, what more are you doing than others? In other words, Jesus starts laying out this dynamic of these comparisons that so many of us have lived with, that the system says, look, whether it is your work friends and your not work friends, whether it is your family or your non-family, whether it is the people who are part of your country or those who are not or whatever, we have lived in this space that has constantly created the us and them, the good and the evil. And then it finishes up with this idea of those who are like fully you, like your brothers and sisters, versus those who are not you. And there's a lot of times that these definitions become what we ultimately accept. Because here's the thing. The world keeps handing us definitions of ourselves that we never agreed to. The world keeps handing us definitions that say, this person over here is a them and we're an us. But it doesn't have to be that way. You see, in that space, the space of those questions that we ask of how we interact, how we act this way or that way, Jesus steps into that space where people have constantly tried to define themselves in different ways and gives us one of those answers that, I'll be honest with you, like I believe that a lot of the Bible is meant to be taken seriously, not literally. And this was one of those first verses. Even when I was a little kid, I was like, there is no way that Jesus meant this verse to be taken literally. In fact, if you ever meet someone, they're like, the Bible's 100% literal, look at this verse and ask, is that really literal? And it says this. It's Jesus, after he says all of these ways that we've compared each other, he says this. He says, be perfect, therefore, as your heavenly Father is perfect. Or be perfect as God is perfect, or as the divine is perfect. I hope that that verse isn't literal. Because how do I be perfect? But before we try to figure out what that means for us, I actually want us to take a few minutes kind of collectively, and this is going to be a little bit of an audience participation piece. I want to ask us what we think the end of this verse means. This whole like, as God is perfect, what does that mean? What does that look like? And let me say this up front. I get, you may not think that God is perfect. You may have had church trauma and you're like, I don't even believe in God, and that's fine, okay? But my question is, if you were to imagine what a perfect God is, in order to make this verse happen, what are some adjectives that you would use to describe a perfect God? And I want you to think about that, and then I'm going to ask you, does anybody have an adjective that they would use to describe what you thought or what you were taught or what you think now is a perfect God? Anybody have a word for that? In flux. That's an interesting choice. I don't know necessarily, like, you mean just changing? Yeah. Yes? Authentic. I hope that that is one of the words that I get to use to describe myself. Anybody else have another word that you would use to describe a perfect God? Compassionate. What a great word. Anybody else? Loving. Boom. Love that. Love that. And if that's what perfection looks like, and if that's what I get to do, I hope that I'm doing that. Let me tell you some of the other words, though, that I heard when I was growing up. Infallible. Never mistaken. Never changing. And while some of those words, like loving or compassionate, are words that I think I could get toward, I also know that if the objective is perfection, as in never fallible or never changing or always loving, that I don't meet that. I mess that up. And so if the goal is I have to be perfect, then I'm tanked. Which is actually the first thing I want to push into this morning as we think about this, to give you a handhold on this idea of how God looks at us and sees us as whole, and that's this. That we often internalize others' definitions of ourselves that were never meant for us. We often internalize others' definitions for ourselves that were never meant for us. This verse is one of those places, honestly. If we just show up at this verse and we come from some of the baggage that some of us come from, that God is infallible or never changing, that's the standard of what it means for us to live a good life or to live a perfect life, then we, or at least I, am going to beat myself up over it because I'm not that. I mess up. But there's a chance, and I could be wrong about this because I'm not infallible, that maybe this was never the comparison that we were supposed to be making. You see, when Jesus said this, or at least when it was written down in Greek probably 3 or 4 decades after he said this, the word that is used for perfect is the Greek word teleoi. And it has 2 different ways that it can be transcribed. It could either be written as perfect, or it could be written as complete. And if you'll let me get just a little bit nerdy here with you for just a second. If you remember back to high school biology class, and you were learning all about things that you use all the time, like cell division. One of the things that you might have heard back then was the process of mitosis and meiosis. If you've completely forgotten about that, or you were the kid who said, I'm never going to use this, maybe like send an email to your high school biology teacher and be like, guess what we did today? Because here's the thing. Right before the cell division happens, the mitosis or meiosis happens, there is this phase that happens called the telophase in biology. And what that means is that the cells aren't perfect, but they're ready to go to the next stage. They have completed that phase, and they're ready to split apart. It's the same root word, telo, and it's the same word that when people used to translate the Old Testament or the Hebrew scriptures from Hebrew to Greek so that people in the Greek culture could read it, they would use oftentimes to talk about things like lambs that would be brought to slaughter, or lambs that would be brought for sacrifice. In fact, there's this text in Exodus where God's commandment is that your lamb must be perfect. This didn't mean, by the way, that the lamb had never bad at something wrong. Is that a bad bad? I wasn't supposed to say that. That's sorry. That's the worst pun I've made today. All right, but here's the thing. It wasn't about making sure that the lamb never made an error. It was about making sure that you didn't just bring half a lamb. It was about making sure that the lamb was complete. And here's the reality about that, is that we often don't see that in ourselves, that we are already complete. In the show Severance, the characters often internalize this thought. They internalize what their boss says that they're doing. They don't understand what kind of a job they're doing because they've never been outside before, okay? And so they ask their boss, like, what am I doing? And their boss doesn't actually tell them. All their boss tells them is, quote, the work is mysterious and important. Even though all they seem to be doing is taking numbers and sorting them based on which numbers are scary and which numbers make them happy. You know, I think many of us have had those same concepts penned on us at different times. We have been told that the only way to be complete is to follow a certain manuscript for our life. You know, the manuscript that starts off like, make sure you start getting all A's in elementary school and middle school. Make sure that you do all the extracurriculars in high school so that you can go to college and get a scholarship so that when you graduate, you can get married and have 2.3 kids and buy a house and move up in the company and have a white picket fence and do all of the things. And then suddenly, if any of that story didn't work out exactly like the manuscript, suddenly you feel like you're not perfect. You feel like it's not complete, that you didn't do the thing, that you didn't achieve the American dream. In 1931, James Truslow Adams penned a best-selling book called The Epic of America. And this book largely was the one that brought to the American idea the concept of the American dream. Prior to 1931, it was often called the American experiment or had some kind of that notion to it. But Adams would use this phrase, the American dream. But interestingly enough to me, Adams' concept of the American dream was not things like having 2.3 kids or a 2-car garage or a white picket fence or whatever. But rather, when he used that phrase, he would often use it as a warning that it was actually the striving that people were doing that was causing them to undermine other people. Sarah Churchill is a professor at the American Literature and Culture at the University of London. And she's been recently studying a bunch of Adams' work. And she recently penned this. She said, Adams believed in the higher ideals of the American dream, like egalitarianism or freedom, opportunity, and justice for all. And he saw them dissolving in the hands of the wealthy. For me, there's a warning here that when we are so completely defined by the standards that other people say that we have to achieve, it can create a cycle of comparison that we can never get out of. But a cycle that was never supposed to be there to begin with. I wonder how often we do this comparison not only to ourselves, but also to those around us. right? We look at something on Instagram or social media and we compare ourselves, and that makes us feel bad, so we start to cut others down so that maybe we don't feel as bad about ourselves. But when Jesus says here that we are to be perfect like God is perfect, and like I said, I could be wrong about this, but I don't think that what he was saying is that you have to achieve everything like the manuscript that you were handed. I don't think what Jesus was saying here is that you have to get 100% on your bar exam. I don't think what Jesus was saying here is that you have to have everything exactly mapped out and land that exact correct way every single time. Instead, at least the way I understand it, is that maybe Jesus was saying that we are supposed to be completely who we were created to be. That we are not to be hiding ourselves. Later in the New Testament, in the book of James, which some people believe was written literally by Jesus' brother, there's a description of this that I think is pretty helpful. In James 1, he uses this exact same word, this telos word, saying that we should endure in our faith and that by doing that, we would be complete. But then he draws this juxtaposition that says the opposite of it is being double-minded. The word that he creates here, double-minded, by the way, is not a word in Greek. In fact, he was the first one to ever use it that we found. It's not in any other Greek writing. It's not elsewhere in the Bible. We have no idea why he came up with this word. But this word that he wrote there is the word dipsychos, and it means being double-minded. And it seems like the way that he was using this word was the same way that sometimes we would call someone a hypocrite. That sometimes we would say, like, you're not acting like yourself. You're putting on a mask. You're doing something in one setting and not the other. And so let me be very clear. I don't think that the path of love that Jesus is talking about here is the path that says, leave your baggage at the door. I think it's a path that says, bring it in. It's a path that says, not, you should put on a mask and pretend like everything's fine here. It's a path that actually says, let's take off our masks and see each other as we truly are. It's a path, by the way, that says we shouldn't edit out the fact that the mics didn't work today, right? That we are authentically with each other in a room or online together, experiencing this right now together. Is it always perfect? Maybe not. But is it complete? I think it is, because we get to do it together. It seems that the path that Jesus is pushing us toward is to be our complete self, just as we are, failing microphones and all. And the reason I think for that is actually the last handhold that we're going to talk about today, and that's this. That God has already defined you as whole, just as you are. That God has already defined you as whole, just as you are. You don't have to improve for God, the love of the universe, to look at you and say, you are whole just as you are. While the American dream and the comparison trap is going to constantly try to define us as not being enough because we don't have more enough, I don't think that that is the truest example or the internal definition of who we are. You see, the problem with that is if we don't believe this, we start thinking that we have to wear masks around each other. That we need to separate who we are from who others see us to be. We need to separate our innie and our outie. But that's not what God sees. From the get-go, the story seems to be that God sees you as good. If you had a Bible and you opened it up to page 1, you'd get an index. But if you opened it up to like page 14, you'd get to the book of Genesis. And in Genesis, the very first story is this poem about God creating the world. And as God creates the world and God creates humans, God looks at us and says, you're good. You're really, really, really stinking good. And that narrative continues throughout the entirety of Scripture. In fact, one of my new favorite Bible verses is in the book of Hebrews. It's Hebrews 10:14. And I don't know why this was a text that I never got taught when I was growing up, but it should be one of those that I probably just need to memorize. And it says this, by one gift, he, and they use he as the pronoun for Jesus here, has made perfect forever all those who are being set apart for God-like living. In other words, Jesus looks at you and sees you as perfect. God looks at you and sees you as complete, as someone who is already good, as someone who doesn't have to do anything else for God to accept you. You don't have to change anything for God to love you just as you are. And there's a real reason that this matters, and it's this. When we see ourselves the way that God sees us, we can see others the way that God sees them too. When we see ourselves the way that God sees us, we can see others the way that God sees them too. When I believe that I am intrinsically good, and I also believe that you are intrinsically good, it gives me all the motivation in the world to do everything I can to do the best for you. If I believe that you are good, then I know you're not going to waste what I give you. If I believe that you are good, then there's no reason for me to mask because you're not going to judge me, and there's no reason for you to mask because I'm not going to judge you. One of my favorite things here at the venues that we do is that when we feed people or we have people who sleep in our parking lot, we don't say, okay, first you need to listen to a Sunday school lesson. We ask, are you hungry? Not, can you pretend that you're listening? And I'll be honest with you, I really believe that that is the core component of what it means to see people where they are and to engage them exactly where they are, seeing them as good. I love what the writer Bell Hooks said about this. She wrote, self-love is the foundation of our loving practice. Without it, our other efforts to love fail. When we give this precious gift to ourselves, we are able to reach out to others from a place of fulfillment and not a place of lack. Let me get really practical here for you. Maybe that means that I can be really happy for the person who beat Mario Brothers in just over 4 minutes. Maybe it means that I can honestly be super happy when I see someone else's awesome vacation pictures and not be like, oh man, I just wish I was there instead. Or I can be super happy when I see someone who looks super tan or super buff or super smart or whatever. I can just be happy with that. And maybe it can mean that I believe that I am enough, so that when I have a bad day at home, or I have a bad day at work, or I have a bad day doing whatever in traffic, that I can bring myself as I am without a mask to all of the other places as well, knowing that we can accept each other in that space. And maybe it means that we can choose to define ourself as our whole self, not just our any self, not just our outy self, but that we can see that we are loved, that we are enough, and that we are whole, just as we are. Now, let me say this. I know that for some of you, this idea that we start off as intrinsically good is a completely foreign concept. It's something that's brand new to you. And you might have questions about this. I am not infallible. You can push back on this. And one of the best ways to do that is if you have a question, you can text it into the phone number that's on the screen. And we have Whitney right over here, still not wearing a Santa hat. And she, if there are any questions that you all have, is going to ask them. And we will see if there is any way that we can kind of process those things together. All right. Good morning, Whitney.
Questions.
Okay. Well, we have like almost 2 minutes, so.
Oh. Okay, I'll read quickly. I have an issue with messages that tell me that I am good the way that I am. It seems to move the object of hope away from I can get better to the world around me can get better. And I want to grow. I want to be better than I am.
Yeah, that's a great statement and question. So thank you for choosing that question.
Yeah.
And thank you for whomever wrote that. Let me say this, that one of the slogans, some of the language that we've been using here lately is this, that you are good and we are better together. And the reason I like that phrasing so much is this, that it reminds me that I'm already complete, but that I can get better when I'm around other people. I was already fine. I was already complete. God looked at me and loved me before I ever came to church the first time, before I ever did anything like that. If I never did that again, God would still look at me and love me. I was still fine before I ever went to the gym the first time. And doing those things makes my life more complete. And so there is hope. There is a space that we can get better, but the way that we do that is together, is that we push into each other, because I myself am good, and you yourself are good. And when we are together, we are better for ourselves, for each other, and for our community in a way that I think really does make a huge difference, honestly. It's a great question, though. And by the way, one of the ways that we can practice that is that if you are in that space that you're like, I don't know how to do this, I would love to buy you a cup of coffee sometime and talk more about it, because I think that that is how we get better. That's how I get better. Is you say like, you said this, I don't agree with it. That's fine. That's how I get better, and that's how we get better collectively. So if you'd like to do that, thevenues.org/coffee is where I keep my calendar. And so find yourself a time that works well for you. Thank you, Whitney. Any other questions?
I'll do a shorter one.
Mm-hmm.
Why does this church not have crosses?
Ooh.
As like decor? Or?
Yeah. That's a good question, actually. So there are some things that, and I'm going to answer this question in about 15 seconds, other than saying we should go get coffee and talk more about it. But the short version is, the reason that we don't have decor that is specifically religious and iconography is this: because we believe here at the venues that people come from all kinds of different spaces, okay? I believe in Jesus. I see Jesus as really important, and the way of Jesus is the way that I want to live my life. But I also know that sometimes there is trauma that comes from specific iconography that isn't the path of Jesus. The path of Jesus isn't just a modern replica of what a cross looks like. And I would rather people follow the path of Jesus than get hung up on a piece of iconography. That's where I am right now about that. And you may not agree with me. So if you don't, let's go get coffee and we can talk more about it. Is that fair? Awesome. Thank you, Whitney. Those were great questions. All right. With that said, I am going to let Whitney stay up here because she is going to give you some dismissal instructions, including about Next Level.
If you are interested in learning more about the venues, getting to know some venues people, volunteering, stick around in the auditorium for Next Level. It's today. We'll make it quick. You won't have to be here long. But if it is your first time, I highly recommend staying for that to get acquainted with us. I didn't memorize what I'm supposed to say. What do I say next? Parents. Wait, who said that? Rita, you're the best. All right, if your kid is in kids venue, you can go get them first. And if you're wanting to connect, you can join the Connect group. Oh, bye online.